And today I am doing a little bit of a deeper dive on the Pappa Rodger's profile. And there was a reaction video that was done recently to my most recent video about Pappa Rodger's that sort of affiliate Pappa Rodger's with somebody who I'm going to call Chef Dizzy, just because I don't feel appropriate affiliating his name with this account quite yet. So I'm going to show you this response video and we're just going to break it down. But before I begin showing it to you, I want to say I've really enjoyed this video. Crime Lies and Videotapes put so much effort into researching Pappa Rodger's, and that's the point, is like we're supposed to spend time breaking these things down and analyzing them, not just forming our own personal opinions about something. I'm going to begin with Pappa Rodger's. So let me start by showing you this picture right here. The artist who submitted this photograph, which was uploaded on November 29th of 2022 to the Pappa Rodger's profile, the artist's name is Yi Shu. The caption reads, "What could be worse than war? It's hard to even imagine. Fighting for a country is a courageous and heroic action. However, a possibility to die for someone's interest does not sound too good. There were 2 world wars already, and I think nobody wants another one to happen. Nevertheless, sometimes there are other factors which you cannot impact." Yi Shu made a photorealistic portrait of an unknown old soldier. And here is what we wanted to achieve. In this piece, I tried to achieve photographic effect, to learn some lighting and hair techniques, and the reference is some image from the net. So I tried to identify who Pappa Rodger's was. I'm going to show you this. So Pappa Rodger is an early 1920s Red soldier. So I can identify it as a 1920s soldier, a World War I soldier versus a World War II soldier because of the shoulders. So as you can see on these Russian outfits, they have these shoulder pads and emblems. And by World War II, they had essentially done away with those shoulder pads because they wanted the outfits to not resemble the imperialistic army of the past. So what is the Red Army? In my personal opinion, let me pull up this Pappa Rodger's pic again. This is not a symbol of war to me. This is a symbol of godlessness. All right, let me go on. So when I'm identifying this soldier, it's called a Palatko hat. And if you look, there's a little red star in the corner. So generally, when you see a combination of this red star and this uniform, you're either dealing with a sniper or a medic. Okay. So what was the Red Army? Well, the Red Army existed while Stalin was in power. So the League of the Militant Godlessness, an organization employed by Joseph Stalin to storm the heavens, ridicule and humiliate clergymen, and transform superstitions from citizen into atheist. As someone who holds a spiritual channel, I'm all too familiar with what they're talking about. So Stalin tried to eradicate religion and God from the former Soviet Union. He did this with an atheist army, and they killed probably about 1,500 clergymen throughout the former Soviet Union in their attempts to eradicate religion. And it was almost like spread throughout the world, because we then had Mao and we had Pol Pot. And I'm going to make a very bold statement right now that a lot of people like to say, oh, religion has killed a lot of people throughout the world. But if you were to combine every religious war for the last 10,000 years and add up all the casualties, it wouldn't even be a fraction of the amount of people who have been killed by atheistic governments in like the last 100+ years. So the symbol that you're looking at when you see Pappa Rodger's is a symbol of godlessness and eradicating a religion. Okay, so let's get into the video.
Everything you see in this video is all allegedly pure speculation, going off my gut feeling, a hunch, and don't run with what I say. Yeah, I hope everybody's had a great weekend. Let's go ahead and get started. What you're looking at right here is a post that was written by Pappa Rodger on December 1st, 2022. Now, for all you English majors out there, I'm sure that the first thing that you're able to spot are there's some errors in these sentences, okay? Mistakes, if you will. Now, most English teachers won't take off for these mistakes, but they'll probably circle it here. And as a reminder that this isn't the way you form a paragraph with these additional spaces that are in between these sentences, okay? Where if you look at where the period ends in the word house and then the word they picks up, somebody has manually tapped the space bar, either on their phone or their computer, to create additional spaces here, okay? And you can see that throughout the sentence in the word they, it, either, this, and even in here at the bottom, house, comma, and where the it picks up, you can clearly see, you guys, that there's additional spaces in between these sentences. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to start. I'm going to call Chef Dizzy because I just don't like implicating somebody to Pappa Rogers. What he's saying about the spacing and the double spacing after a sentence, the first thing I was going to say is I do this. It's indicative of an older generation. So I think the reason why people do the double spacing, in my understanding, is anyone who learned how to do handwriting or cursive or took extensive lessons in that, they naturally put a space there. So when we were learning how to type, English teachers actually taught us to put a double space there because that's what we were doing with our handwriting. And so it is an older generation thing. It's talked about a lot how the new generation doesn't put the double space after the sentence.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about that today. Composing a sentence, okay? From time to time, people will write, and the way they write is a dead giveaway. So, as you see, the additional spaces, right? Again, that is somebody manually hitting the space bar, you guys. This isn't done automatically this way. You can see there's 2 or 3 additional spaces in between the next word from the last sentence. Right? This was Pappa Roger. Also, I want to show this sentence written by Pappa Roger. This entire board is assumptions. Responding to a question up here seems like the type of question only the killer would have an answer to. Pappa Rogers writes, this entire board is assumptions. Kind of like in this sentence written by I Data When You Sleep, which is Enon. Why would they bring me in for an interview? You start off a paragraph with a question.
Add myself to the stage. So he's comparing these two sentences. Why would they bring me in for an interview? And he's comparing it to this Pappa Rogers. Why would the killer choose a knife as the murder weapon? Why would they bring me in for an interview? It's interesting because we're doing a sentence by sentence comparison, but that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at a paragraph and a sentence being plucked out of it compared to another sentence. So let's do it like this. I'm going to read you the Pappa Rogers statement, and then I'm going to read you the Data While You Sleep statement in the same tone. Why would the killer choose a knife as the weapon of choice? Why would they bring me in for an interview? Because a bunch of internet crack smokers think I did it based off of some weak assumptions and sleuth facts? Nah, the police aren't nearly as dumb as these internet wannabe detectives. Trust me. And in the trust me is a second sentence without capitalization. You can't end in a me. So I'm just saying that it's difficult comparison, but I understand why he's making it. Let's go on.
Kind of like this right here. Why would the killer choose a knife as their weapon of choice? Right? Why did the killer choose that house over all the others in the area? Huh. I guess Enon likes to start his paragraphs off with a question as well. But because of a bunch of internet crack smokers think I did it based on some weak assumptions and sleuth facts. Weak assumptions. That's actually just your assumption, written by I Data When You Sleep, Enon, right? On December 11th, 2022, right here. December 2022. This entire board is assumptions. Well, I guess Enon and Pappa Roger share the same little quote.
This was the next point. So he goes back and forth with these two questions when we do assumptions. So there are, when we talk about these two assumption statements, the one from BK and then the one from Enon that's listed in here, one of them is a offensive statement and one of them is a defensive statement. So they're not the same sentence. They're not saying the same thing. This is his defensive statement. Whereas when we look at here,
Enon and Pappa Roger share the same little quote.
Offensive right here. The other is defensive.
So the spacing, right, you guys? Composing a sentence. Let's look at some more comparisons. Well, this is written by I Data When You Sleep. Enon's AMA and his posts over. Kind of like Inside Looking.
Okay, I'm going to pause here because we're going to look at two different types of, now that we've gotten through this spacing, because I don't want to play the video in full. He has a lot to say and it's all has a lot of value to our community, but I'm just adding to it. So there's something to be said about writing style. So we're going to look at two different aspects of the writing style we're looking at. Pappa Roger has a very specific type of writing style. He is saying the most in the fewest words as possible. He's also making statements that are meant to provoke thought. They're discussion provoking statements. That's the point. It was the Idaho case discussion Facebook forum, the largest one, might I add, there was. The other thing is, because you can see in the writing style for both Inside Looking and I Data While You Sleep, they talk about themselves, right? And whereas when you hear Pappa Rogers make a statement, it's a content-based statement. He's trying to create content. Whereas when you hear Inside Looking or I Data While You Sleep, they're trying to talk about themselves. They're trying to interject something about themselves. And you're going to see 3 examples of that now. I'll stop them and I'll point them out as they go.
Where somebody's manually hit the space bar additional times in between their sentences, right? So Inside Looking, Pappa Roger, and I Data When You Sleep, which is Enon, would appear they compose sentences in the same way.
And one thing about that Inside Looking, that they just actually have the slide right here. I'll just put it up so we don't have to keep jumping back and forth. But I've got the Inside Looking slide. Right here. So if you look at this, the killer drove to the residence, entered the sliding door at approximately 3:20 a.m., stabbed the victim in their beds, left through the sliding glass door approximately 3:35, and heads east on Highway 8. That's a totally different sentence structure. Look at this. Their murder, this is Pappa Rogers. These are better. These sentences are formed more complete than this. Doesn't sound the same.
Like over here, Superman to the moon. How many people you know I data when you sleep? Pappa Roger, inside looking. Like this one right here.
Here we go.
I have a hot date tonight and she wants to watch good comedy. Question mark. Should I get this one? Question mark. Let's go over here to Pappa Roger for a minute. This is Swamp Rose, you guys. I've been watching her videos over the last couple of weeks. She's been looking into the Pappa Roger, so go check her out.
Thanks. Go check out.
There's those spaces again.
Right here. I have a hot date tonight and she wants to watch a good comedy. Should I get this one? At no time in all of Pappa Roger's writings did we see egocentric writing. That's what that is. That's what, it doesn't mean you have an ego or full, it's not what that means. But the definition of that style is called egocentric. And whereas we have Pappa Roger's writing a substantive. So one is focusing on themselves, one is focusing on the substance. It's a totally different writing style. And I don't think that, you know, I know writing styles can vary too. So somebody might write differently in a discussion forum versus what they would in an email to someone. But in general, that's an evolution in your writing. Do you think it's the same mind? I'd love to know your comments. I don't think it's the same mind.
You see the additional spaces?
This is true. The spaces are something these two writings have in common.
Right. Work after comedy. Should I get this one?
Okay, we need to stop here too, because there's another point that I need to bring out when we talk about this. So he talks about, should I get this one? She wants to watch a comedy. If somebody is talking like that, would they also, I'm just posing this to you because this was, a lot of these comments came from December 11th, the same day Pappa Rogers was very active in his account. Do you picture talking about having some sort of sexual dysfunction? Because Pappa Rogers does. And it just doesn't quite seem like the same mind is writing these. So Pappa Rogers alludes to the killer having sexual dysfunction, sexual motivation, and I don't think that the same person who would write a flashy comment like, I got, you know, suggesting he's bringing a girl home and wants to know your advice on that, I don't think the same person would also admit they just an observation that other people have commented on as well.
With the additional spaces, right? The question marks.
Yeah, Nevada, I think he has excellent points, and I hope it doesn't sound like I'm shooting him down, just adding to his work. Crime, lies, and videotapes.
Sorry, it's a little blurry. Composing a sentence in the same way. Isn't that a coincidence? All three of these people, four of these people, Superman to the Moon, I Data When You Sleep, Arshina 7, Pappa Rogers, and Inside Looking, that's 5, all compose a sentence in the same way.
Well, no, not quite. The other difference I keep forgetting to bring up, there's also, I don't think I've said this before, you can look at the lack of detail. So whereas when you're talking to Inside Looking, he gets specific. He talks about specific highways, very specific doors. And you don't really see that with Pappa Roger's posts. They're slightly more broad, but that's just an opinion. That's not like actually a fact. It's my opinion.
More than once. Okay. More than once. So how many people, I'll ask again, that you know write like that continuously?
I do. It's going
Over
to
a
stop
3-year
after
period.
this, but I do.
I I am going to continue to show these comparisons. Thank you to Swamp Rose. Hope it's okay that I used part of your video. I liked how that all the writing was shown up close. It takes a lot of time to take these photos. Here again, additional spaces written by Pappa Rodger on December 11th. Pappa Rodger was real busy on December 11th over here on the Facebook group. And then if you go over here, you can see, so was iData When You Sleep, was really busy over here on that Sunday, December 11th. There's probably about 15 posts over here. December 11th, December 11th, December 11th, December 11th, December 11th, December 11th. Real busy over here on December 11th, weren't you, Enon? The same day that Pappa Rodgers was busy over here on Facebook. That's considered an error, you guys, in a sentence. English teacher probably won't mark you off unless you continue to turn in papers that way. But I guarantee you that they'll circle it as a reminder and show you that it's not to be written that way. Now, I've came to my own conclusions, my own opinion, and you're welcome to yours. But it's in my opinion that these are written by one and the same person.
Okay, that's the end of the video. And I feel kind of bad for Enon Harsh. Like, I think he thought he was doing something good, interjecting him into this case, but he appears to like made a lot of people implicate him. When we talk about this Pappa Rodger's photo right here, that clearly comes from, it's a godless symbol from the million-man atheistic army, okay? Now, this is Enon Harsh, all right? A self-proclaimed spiritual person, someone whose mother had them reading yoga books, okay? Let me read. I'm actually going to read you a quote from Enon, and you tell me if you think that this gentleman would choose the godless symbol of the million-man atheistic army for his profile picture. So this is from Reddit. This is part of his AMA. All right, so tell me if I hold Pappa Rodger's profile pic up, if you honestly think that these two go together. Because in my personal feeling is there is a lot more symbolism that would have been chosen by somebody who writes like this ahead of the symbol of godlessness. So here's the symbol of godlessness. And this is what Enon said. Before I go further, I'd like to share a meditation I personally have found very powerful in my healing process. I couldn't find the book. It's from the Tibetan Heart Yoga. It is a book that my mother gave me, and I took it for granted, and I let it slip my gaze for almost a decade. Growing up homeschooled to high school, I had very different youth than most people in this country. I was very close to my mother, and I grew distant for years. Now that your light is more brilliant and expansive, it's time to think about someone you care deeply about who is suffering. Imagine them sitting in front of you in their own diamond and flower, and the light is dim and the diamond is barely an ember. Yet something is wrong. You can tell that they are not feeling well. You can sense their good. You can sense and see their sadness. Your own flower and diamond are shining bright. Still envision this. Think about the struggles that bring them to their suffering. Go deep into the delay without judgment. Think about the struggles, the sacrifices. I'm not going to go on, but it's very doubtful that somebody who's choosing the godless symbol for their profile pic would also be quoting the principal Upanishads. If you have somebody who's read the Veda, or the Vedanta, or the principal Upanishads, these books that literally hundreds of religions were based off of, I just find it uncharacteristic that somebody who quotes the Veda would then go choose Stalin symbol of the Million Man Atheistic Army for their profile pic. But what it does show is that there was somebody godless that chose that pic. So let's just one more time take a look at this. And I decided to, because Pappa Rodger continuously references a second weapon that could have been used, I decided to, just for the heck of it, find out what type of weapon was used by this early 20s Red Army soldier. And a lot of these soldiers were not, combat soldiers were not armed, actually, because many of them, it was the peasant army. It was also called the Peasant Workers Army, and they didn't have arms for all of them. So many of them had what was called trench knives, and they also had combat knives. These came out of fashion after that era. So ironically, the combat knife was taken after that small sliver of window, which this profile pic of Pappa Rodger's is based on. They stopped using this combat knife. Let me show you a picture of it, though, so you have an idea of what I'm looking at. It's just ironic. So this was the issued knife before combat knives became irrelevant to the Russian army just several years later. So anyway, this is my whole presentation on Pappa Rodger's. This is just what I found out lately. I exonerate Chef Dizzy. I don't think he has anything to do with this, but that's just my opinion. And yeah, so I have a few comments. I'll see if you guys have anything to add to this. Let's see. Okay, so Nevada Naps. I don't think that someone who did this crime would make a profile pic look somewhat like them. Good point. In my opinion, someone did that to make us think of BK. But remember, we didn't know about BK. Well, yeah, if it was somebody who knew about BK before we knew about BK. But how would, it would have to be a very elaborate, something very elaborate for someone to know, because nobody knew about BK until he was arrested. He was arrested on the 30th. Pappa Rodger stopped posting on the 30th. And I've also, since I made my last video, I've been in contact with some people who are actually in that Facebook discussion group when Pappa Rodger was posting, because they were pushing back, because lots of people were saying, well, Pappa Rodger posted afterwards. He posted a lot of things, and it's actually a female. And I actually got the handle from that second Pappa Rodger account provided to me from those people that were in the original case discussion forum. And it's a different person. They stand by, Pappa Rodger stopped all of his posting on the 30th. And then I've said he may resemble pics, so you can, I don't think he looks like the photo in the side view. I think that photo was chosen for a specific reason. I mean, what are the chances? If you're going to go find a symbol of a soldier, you're going to pick a foreign soldier from a communist government. It's just, it seems like it's too much of a coincidence. It seems like there'd be a reason why somebody picked that picture randomly. But it's possible because the artist says they picked the photo randomly. So with that said, again, I just want to say thank you so much for Crime Lies and Videotapes for analyzing my video. I'm so flattered that you wanted to look at my material. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we're just going to move on to our next segment. Thank you so much.